Pursuit tech are weapons or tactics that police and racers use against each other to either escape and defend, or take down and arrest. It's a common thing for police to utilize these tactics in a pursuit in any Need for Speed game that has them. And it is also beneficial for racers to have an edge at the competition or being able to defend themselves regardless if it's free roam or any event. Utilization of pursuit tech goes as far as back as Need for Speed 3 Hot Pursuit to more recently with Need for Speed Unbound with its Volume 8 update, along with some games in between that have police and various weapons and tactics that are exclusive to either racers, cops, and some that are shared between the two include EMP, ESF, Jammer, Shockwave, Shock Ram, Spike Strip, Stun Mine, Turbo, Helicopter, Roadblock, Killswitch, and Auxiliary. The electromagnetic pulse targets and locks on into vehicles that are in front of you before delivering a huge electrostatic pulse that temporarily shuts down their electrical systems. How it works, you have to get behind a vehicle, a lock-on sequence will initiate, and after a few seconds, the vehicle in front of you will get shocked by the EMP. And depending on their health, it could either temporarily disable their electrical systems, thus making them a bit slower, or damage them out completely. And in some instances, it will completely shut off their car for a short period of time. The electrostatic field charges your car's body with a powerful static field that will shock anyone that touches it. Or it could also give your car a purple cloak around the entire body that it will give damage to any vehicle that touches it. It's also pretty useful when it comes to evading stun mines and EMP locks. The jammer surrounds your car with a temporary field that protects you from tech hits and interferes with the heads-up display of other drivers nearby, preventing pursuit tech from being utilized. This same effect also applies to cops as well when they try to use pursuit tech to damage your car. Using a jammer can also reveal the location of roadblocks as well. Shockwave creates a sonic shock blast from the center of your car that pushes away and damages any vehicles that are near you. It's basically ESF but without electricity. Shock Ram creates a sonic shockwave blast from the front of your car that pushes away and damages any cars caught by it. Spike strips are deployed from the rear of your car, which can quickly expand and damage the tires of any car that's traveling over them and can hit multiple vehicles if they cannot be avoided. Depending on the game, if it doesn't let you play as a cop or even let you carry spike strips, damage that racers will receive will depend if they either have reinflatable tires or not. In some games, as long as you're not in critical damage if it's a factor, your tires will reinflate over time. Particularly in Most Wanted 2012, as long as you have a reinflatable tires option in your car, you're gonna be fine. And for other games that have police and spike strips, your best bet will be to use pursuit breakers if you can find any, assuming that the game in question allows you to drive your car on its rims. If none are available or you're in a game that doesn't have any at all, then you're out of luck. Unless if a game or version allows you to continue on in the same event, if you haven't been busted more than 2 times out of 3, then you're fine. For the moment. You can also use a repair station or gas station to reinflate your tires again if you're nearby one. And depending on the game, you also have to be careful how you deploy your spike strip, otherwise you'll be running into it yourself, regardless which side are you on, even if you're a cop running over a police spike strip. When colliding with a stun mine, it will overload the electrical systems of your vehicle and causing damage and loss of control. Essentially, think stun mines the equivalent of an EMP that works as a spike strip, since they are deployed behind your vehicle. Separate from a normal turbo upgrade, this system will give your vehicle a rapid boost of acceleration that will last until its power is depleted, or when you get involved into a heavy collision. This is also a good alternative when it comes to evading an EMP, as long as you're in a straight line and as long as there isn't many obstacles in your way. Various Need for Speed games utilize helicopters differently. Mainly in Hot Pursuit and Rivals, they will deploy a spike strip ahead of the racers in anticipation of the route that they will take during a pursuit or a race. In some games that have a helicopter, both before Hot Pursuit 2010 and after Need for Speed Rivals, they will follow you up until they will run out of fuel. And only for Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2, they will either throw explosive barrels onto the street or shoot missiles at you. At that point, that's not the police, that is the military coming after you. One thing that you can actually do in Hot Pursuit 2010, regardless if it's the remaster or the original game, you can actually EMP the helicopter. It's possible as long as you are in range to do so, preferably when the helicopter is hovering above the spike strip it has laid on the ground. And only seen in Need for Speed Payback is a weapon called Skyhammer, which essentially is a kill switch that helicopters use when flying above a suspect's vehicle to disable their car. And it is only seen in one mission in the game with the same name of the tech. Roadblocks are self-explanatory. You request for one, and then police will block off the road to make sure the suspect doesn't get through. Sometimes there will be gaps for racers to get through if the roadblock isn't properly secure, but other times there could also be bigger gaps that have a spike strip that will slow down suspects if they run through them, or even objects that are too heavy to move or explosive that could slow you down. And roadblocks will depend how heavy they are depending what vehicles are being utilized in what game, ranging from normal police cruisers to SUVs to Rhino vans. And in some occasions it could just be signs telling you to stop, or it could also have concrete barriers. Another thing about roadblocks is that at times it's not always going to be a long straight blocking the entire road. At times it could also be scattered in different places in the same area. And only really seen in Need for Speed Undercover and Rivals, police will be able to move from the roadblock after you have gone through it or you have crashed into it, and even go and chase after other suspects that are in the area that pass by, or just simply go in their separate ways after an event is over. And as a cop, you also have to be careful how you approach the roadblock, because depending if the roadblock has been gone through or not, there could be vehicles scattered on the road which can either crash you out or slow you down. Not to mention that you have to be strategic to when are you going to spawn a roadblock, especially in Hot Pursuit and Rivals, where opponents can either take shortcuts, can be spawned outside of the pursuit area, or if a racer is more than capable of taking a different route or turning around if they see a roadblock during an interceptor event, or during free mode. And as a bonus for both Hot Pursuit and Rivals, if a racer crashes into a roadblock and comes to a complete stop, you can take advantage of the situation by crashing into them going full speed, and even use pursuit tech if possible, arresting them in the process. A known method for most wanted 2005 Carbon and Undercover is that usually hitting the back of a police cruiser is a lot easier to disable the unit instead of hitting the front, given that it's lighter. And it is very effective when using the Speedbreaker in any of those three games. Every other game that does not have a Speedbreaker will be dependent if the cop cars that are in the roadblock can be destroyed or not. And that'll also depend on what you're driving, what's on the roadblock, and if the game in question allows you to break through without losing too much time, like crash cams if they cannot be disabled, or damaging yourself severely in the process if a damage meter is a factor. Killswitch is something that it's only really seen in Need for Speed Payback and Heat, where a cop will get next to a racer and be able to disable their car. Essentially an EMP, but without the target lock feature and being able to just temporarily disable their car depending on their health. One method that can be utilized in both games is to basically, for racers, is to crash into that officer that's going to use a kill switch on you, or completely crash them out if possible. Or you can also take evasive maneuvers and keep your distance away from those kill switch cars. One thing that should be mentioned for both Hot Pursuit and Rivals is that pursuit tech will be upgraded over time. Regardless of what side you are in the game as a racer or a cop, pursuit tech will be upgraded over time through progression and given to you, or later on it will be unlocked and you can purchase it if you have enough funds for it. Not only you will get a higher count than before, but also all of the pursuit tech will be more upgraded and more powerful than before. Some pursuit tech will have better range and cause more damage, others will be able to last longer, and for spike strips specifically in some games, you will be able to deploy 2 of them at once instead of 1. And all of that also applies for Need for Speed Unbalance's Volume 8 update, with the 3 pursuit tech weapons that are available at your disposal as a police officer. Though, for Unbound, to get the 3 weapons and even get their upgraded versions, you have to progress through the cop career by doing a set of challenges that you have to do. Auxiliary can be considered as pursuit tech, but it's not the same ball field as what Rivals and Hot Pursuit offered. Auxiliaries are seen in Need for Speed Heat and Unbound, and they work differently from each other, but there are things that they share, while other things that are exclusive to those games. Heat categorizes their auxiliary into 2 different categories, active and passive. Difference being that active has to be activated by the player by pressing a particular button or key on PC during gameplay, and passive being always active during your gameplay session. While in Unbound, it really doesn't matter what auxiliaries you use in the 2 slots that you're given, since all of them are passive auxiliaries. Auxiliaries include Repair Kit, Damage Reduction or Impact Protection, Damage Increase, various Nitrous Refills, Radio Jammer, Disruptor, Killswitch Jammer, Undercover Racer, and Getaway Driver. When utilizing a repair kit in Need for Speed Heat, only a certain percentage of your vehicle health will be restored. In Need for Speed Unbound, it will restore 100% of your health. Unlike in Heat, when you can utilize the repair kit whenever you want, in Unbound, you have to be in critical damage and survive for a few seconds for your health to be back. They're both pretty convenient when it comes to being far away from a gas station, or you're in the middle of a cooldown, or you don't have any more chances to go to a gas station again. Both damage reduction and impact protection are the same thing in helping you reducing damage that you take during collisions. Damage increase gives you the ability to crash into other vehicles a lot more harder than usual, essentially reinforcing the strength of your car. When it comes to different types of Nitrous Refills, Heat has 6 different methods while Unbound has 5, and both games share 4 with each other, being Jump, Drift, Near Miss, and Draft. The other 2 Nitrous Refill methods that are seen in Need for Speed Heat are Cop and Oncoming. For Nitrous Cop, all you have to do is just hit police vehicles, and for Oncoming, you just simply have to drive on the oncoming lane. Heat also has 3 other Nitrous options that aren't refills but are instead bonuses that include Duration, Power, and Extra Mits. Duration makes the use of Nitrous last longer than usual. Power provides it with an increased output when using Nitrous. And Extra Mits is simply a combination of both Duration and Power. In total, Need for Speed Heat has 9 different Nitrous refills and bonuses that you can utilize as passive. But there's one other method that's an active auxiliary, and that is a regular Nitrous refill. What it does, it will simply refill your Nitrous almost instantly, essentially skipping the wait until your Nitrous has been refilled completely over time, or relying on any of the 6 passive methods that you can use. Radio Jammer in Need for Speed Unbound increases the time for cop reinforcements to arrive at the scene, thus giving you more time to escape or hide. Radar Disruptor in Need for Speed Heat interferes with police radars, making it difficult to find you, specifically during pursuits by shrinking your signature, which is the red ring that you'll see in your minimap. The smaller that it is, it will make cops to be more closer to you to keep up. And Undercover Racer from Need for Speed Unbound also has the same exact function as it does in Heat, basically making it longer for cops in Unbound to identify your vehicle on the spot. When activating Killswitch Jammer, you'll become immune to whenever a police officer decides to killswitch your car. Getaway Driver increases the amount of cash that you can earn from police chases, but at the cost of the time of whenever new reinforcements will arrive. Basically, police reinforcements will arrive a lot more sooner. And lastly, one more auxiliary that is in the passive section of Need for Speed Heat is Reinflatable Tires. Tires in Need for Speed Heat reinflate after you hit a spike strip over time, but with this passive auxiliary, it will reduce that time for those tires to be reinflating. One thing that should be mentioned for both games is that nearly all auxiliaries have 2 variants, a Pro and a Super/Elite variant. And depending on the auxiliary, some will either give you more uses, or it will be an upgraded version compared to the Pro variant that could either last longer or be more stronger. Now, everything that I have talked about so far are the things that you're going to be expecting to see in every Need for Speed game that has them. But there's a specific Need for Speed game that was supposed to have Pursuit Tech weapons, but never made it to the final game. In case if you don't know, Most Wanted 2012 was supposed to be a direct sequel to the 2005 game, and during its Most Wanted 2 development stage, Pursuit Tech weapons were present, which can be found in various builds of the game, and were supposed to be utilized by racers. Since this game is only racer focused, it's unknown exactly if cops were supposed to have more Pursuit Tech weapons and tactics to utilize outside of roadblocks and spike strips like in the final game. But the helicopter was present in the beta builds that never made it into the final game. And it's unknown exactly if it was supposed to work like how it did in Hot Pursuit and then later in Rivals, like it did in the Black Box games, or it would have worked differently. EMP was also cut from the final game, and this would have worked the same as it did in Hot Pursuit and later on in Rivals and Unbound. And more weapons that were found in the beta builds of Most Wanted 2012 include Archlight, Blackslick, Duststorm, Foxbat 52M, Speedbreaker, Thermal Vision, and Shockwave. As far as from what I could find, there were also other Pursuit Tech weapons found in the game files, but I am only going to be showing the ones that I've mentioned since there's footage of them. And at some points during the beta, it was also called Blacklist Weapons or Blacklist Tech or Most Wanted Tech. But to keep it consistent, I'm still going to be calling it Pursuit Tech. And some of these Pursuit Tech weapons don't really have a proper definition for them, so I'm going to be trying my best to describe what they do. Archlight is the equivalent of a flashbang, where your car will flash a light so bright it will make traffic stop in front of you, essentially blinding people and giving obstacles to cops and racers to crash into. And it could also work against racers and police to blind them and take advantage. Blackslick will make your car spill a liquid substance onto the road that will make vehicles to lose control when driving over it. A complete side note, I'm only calling it Blackslick based on the name that is seen in one of the beta builds. Saying this as I don't know what the actual name is or if it's something else differently from what I said. But you can still refer to it as a spill or oil. Dust storm will make your car plow a cloud of smoke from behind that will make you invisible from cops and racers. It could also slow anyone down when driving through it and even blind their visibility, which crashing into another vehicle, building, object, or going into another direction may be possible if not careful. Foxbat 52M works the same as a jammer would from Hot Pursuit and Rivals. While Speedbreaker was used as an ability in the original Most Wanted, Carbon, and Undercover, it was supposed to be a Pursuit Tech weapon in Most Wanted 2, which would have worked the same as it did in those 3 games. There isn't a direct definition as to how thermal vision was supposed to work, but this is my take on it. Thermal vision would have been a way to be able to go through a cloud of dust storm that another racer, either AI or player, has deployed in front of the player. Another way could have been detecting other vehicles or objects that are off the radar. And lastly, Shockwave here works the same as it would eventually in Need for Speed Rivals. But one thing to know that is seen in one of the builds of Most Wanted 2 is that while it doesn't work against traffic vehicles, it does work against police vehicles. But when doing it too close to a cop car, your systems will be temporarily jammed. But this effect will only last for a few seconds. More things for you to keep in mind. Hot Pursuit 2010 allows you to use 4 Pursuit Tech weapons and abilities. A limited amount will be given to you depending on the event if all or some are going to be utilized. Racers and cops share spike strips and EMP, while roadblocks and helicopter are for the police, with jammer and turbo are for racers. Need for Speed Rivals allows you to use 2 tech weapons or abilities at a time. They can be changed at any time if you have enough speed points to purchase them, or even upgrade them. There are 2 weapons that cops and racers share with each other, which are EMP and ESF. Other things like Turbo, Shockwave, Jammer, and Stun Mine are exclusive to racers, and cops exclusively have Spike Strips, Shock Ram, Roadblock, and Helicopter. And yes, only police and Need for Speed Rivals were allowed to have Spike Strips. But the Pursuit Tech was supposed to be shared among the 2 sides. Found from one of the prototypes of the game and from the cutting room floor, there are different sketches of how the spike strip was supposed to look like for racers. And speaking of cut content, there was also supposed to be a Pursuit Tech weapon that was exclusive for cops, and that is called a tracker. From what I could understand and from what I could find about what it's supposed to do, a tracker is supposed to be used on an AI racer on the map and be able to know his location for a limited time. Basically shooting a dart to another racer. Unknown if it would or wouldn't be immune to a jammer. For Need for Speed Unbound in its Hot Pursuit mode, it will only allow you to carry 1 Pursuit Tech weapon per car, meaning you're either going to be picking either the EMP, ESF, or Spike Strip for your car that you're going to be using, if you have unlocked it already. Of course, they can be switched out at any time, but it all depends on player preference, meaning whatever suits the player's style of, for example, using the EMP with Cross's C6 Corvette or using the ESF with the Chevy Colorado. One ability that Need for Speed Unbound has over the other Need for Speed games that have police and Pursuit Tech is that you can teleport in front of other players to catch up if you're behind. Or you simply just want to get ahead and be prepared to crash out or arrest anyone coming your way. Basically, planning ahead. For the classic games, Hot Pursuit 2 will provide you with roadblocks and helicopter support for you to call in to arrest a suspect that you're going after. That is only on the PS2 version. On the other versions, calling in for roadblocks and helicopter support are still available, but you can also call in for backup and assist you in arresting the suspect that you're going after. When playing as a cop in high stakes, specifically the PC version, you're allowed to do these various tactics during a pursuit. Most common, of course, is deploying spike strips and requesting roadblocks, but these particular ones are not seen in other games, which are designating another cop as your wingman and vehicle swap. Designating another cop as your wingman allows you to give direct orders like setting up a roadblock or deploying a spike strip, and can also bot send a suspect if they're nearby them. Vehicle swap is basically you're going from whatever vehicle you started the pursuit with to another cop car that is driven by the AI. Essentially teleporting from one place to another and chase any suspects if nearby. And with Need for Speed 3 Hot Pursuit being the first Need for Speed game that allowed you to play as a cop, and specifically on the PC version, the only tactic and pursuit tech weapon that you can utilize is deploying a spike strip. Depending on your heat level in some games and depending on what mission you're doing in Need for Speed Payback, you will see a Rhino SUV or a Rhino SWAT truck coming towards you at full speed to stop you, essentially a moving roadblock. SUV Rhinos can be found in Most Wanted 2005, Carbon, Undercover, and Need for Speed World. And the ones specifically that you need to look out for are the heavy units, as Most Wanted, Carbon, and World have two types of Rhino SUVs, light and heavy, and difference being are the wheels, suspension, and the bull bar in the front grille. In Undercover they are referred as K9 units, but they still work the same as a Rhino SUV. On the HD version. On the SD version, you'll have both types of SUVs, the light Rhino and the K9 unit being the heavy Rhino. Rhino vans or SWAT trucks can be found in Most Wanted 2012, Payback, and Heat. And technically Need for Speed Unbound to some extent, but their heaviest vehicle in that game is an armored Ford F-150 Raptor, which would end up replacing the Rhino van that was supposed to be in the game as its heaviest vehicle. And Most Wanted 2012 also has its own Rhino SUV in the form of the Ford Interceptor utility, the Ford Explorer. While it's not a Rhino SUV or a SWAT truck, Need for Speed 2015 has police vans, but they are only used in roadblocks and the vehicle of choice is a Chevrolet Express police transport van. The most common tactic from police officers that you'll find in majority of the Need for Speed games that have police is roadblocks. Spike strips are a close second, depending if they are deployed behind the vehicle, either by you, the AI, or appeared in roadblocks. And to summarize everything, all of these tactics and pursuit tech weapons are meant to know for Need for Speed games that have them, either that can be used by you and or by the AI. And specifically for 7 Need for Speed games in particular that are Need for Speed 3 Hot Pursuit, High Stakes, Hot Pursuit 2, Hot Pursuit 2010 and its remaster, Rivals, Heat, and Unbound, as those games put a big emphasis on pursuit tech and police tactics. That's everything that I know, and if you have something that you want to share that I have not mentioned at all, or you want to add or correct something that I have already said, you're more than welcome to do so. And with that, I'm out of here.